And then there's this other aspect which I'm really promoting of being intentional around the work that we engage ourselves in and the habits that we develop now and how we respond to the changes. So in previous times, we've talked about driving change very intentionally through developing a shared need and then a shared vision. And we've also talked about, I'm going to get a whiteboard going here so we can draw some things, about the stages of change that people go through. So we sort of have the early adopters here. That's probably you and I on this call and everybody else listening later, because we have an idea about what needs to happen for our vision of, you know, how we're going to be intentional about driving some of that change. And then here we have these resistors and everyone in between. And if you think of change and implementing change, it's in a lot of ways like the cycles of grief, right? Where you kind of like shock, anger, resentment, acceptance. You go through some of those stages with this too. And my point is to really drive through how we look at data to get some of that buy-in. So the sort of pull through this is collecting information that frames the need for the change. And once you have that need in place, then you can really look at how do we accomplish that need, right? What does that vision look like? Too easily, we start over here in whatever the actual project is and the smart idea that we have. We're just like, I've thought about it, it's kept me up at night, I'm all about it. How do I drive this? And so when I asked earlier today on LinkedIn about, you know, topics that you want to dive into, someone had posted that they were interested in how do we make sure that we're getting at the best culture with the changes that we're implementing, and how do you assess culture in a company? It made me think that when I was early on in my teaching career, long before the consulting days, I would look at administrative jobs, principal, assistant principal, and I would go to the school that I was kind of checking out. I was from a large school board, over 200 schools, and I would sit in their lobby. And with permission, I would tour the school and get a look at the stuff on the walls. You know, how much work was there from the students? What data could I collect, right? I saw how the kids went in and out of the school. I would sit on a bench in the front lobby and kind of sense the parents leaving the front office. How happy, not happy were they? Were the kids kind of playful and kid-like? Or were they really bogged down with stuff? It was a middle school appointments. And so you want to gather data about a culture, especially if you're checking out that area to maybe go work in it. So in an interview setting, you can get more data by the types of questions you ask. And I'm thinking particularly of assessing culture. I think everybody on the call is probably pretty familiar with behavioral-based questions. Those are interview questions where you try to get the person to talk about what behaviors they have. So common, you know, how do you manage change? Keeping in line with our theme. And, you know, it's ideal if somebody just doesn't talk about the theory of change, but says, you know, I hit this challenge, I had to adapt this way, here's how I adapted, here are the supports I reached out for, etc. You see their behavior in their answer, not just talking about change. Likewise, if you're the one being interviewed and you want to find out about that company's culture, you can ask questions about data to see what their vision is for how all of that works. So some questions you might think of asking, and again, you don't want to be like too bossy and edgy that you are looking for the bad data, but you do want to be open to helping them articulate what those opportunities are. For example, you might ask, so, you know, how do you communicate? What are your models and venues for communicating? Well, they might say we do video. Oh, that's cool. What was your last video about? Because you should be able to hear my dog with her perfect yellow ball below. Bug, let me just get that away from her. Drop it, good girl. Oh, this is gonna be problematic. Hang on 1 second. Bug, come here. Come, good girl. Oh, we're not playing right now. Come, just 1 minute. Bug, come, good girl. Oh, good girl. Leave it, leave it. Turns out it wasn't the yellow ball, it was the pink ball. Wait, Bug, we're gonna have to wait. She's good at waiting. I promise to play with her when we're done. So you can ask questions about the video and what kind of topics they have in there, because what people talk about is what they value, right? So you can get at data around that. You can ask for things like, you know, how often do your teams meet? What we spend time on is what we value. I really value the dog, who clearly has not had enough time with me today. I got home a little bit, like minutes before we started this. Okay, Brooke. So ask questions about the data. You can tell what people value by their calendars, right? So asking a leader, so, you know, what is the bulk of your time? Well, meetings. Well, if you're someone that loves working independently, that is not a right cultural fit for you. Or if the leader says, you know, I'm working with my team, and you're someone who loves being collaborative with your leader, then that's a really good fit, because that person, you know, devotes a lot of time to working with their employees. How am I doing not being super distracted with my perfect dog playing with me because we haven't seen each other all day? Okay, so data drives everything. You can tell a lot about a culture by the data you can collect about it. So think through questions that are innocent. I mean, you're not really looking for anything in particular. You're just like, give me a feel for what a regular day is like in that company. So with that, you should also be looking at the data in your own company to kind of identify some of your blind spots around the change that you're intentionally trying to implement. So when you think about shared need, get at data. Don't just drive and look for the data that you want to justify your vision. That's human, we all do it. But it's a lot better if we can be intentional and open and honest about that stuff. All right, shine like a North Star. This is all about being your best in a dark time. And we need each other to kind of help us blow away those clouds that get in the way of us shining so brightly. So hopefully our time on Tuesday night is just that, a chance to kind of get a perspective together, slow down, and think about the work we're doing, why we're doing it, the data that we're collecting that kind of tells us about people's readiness to get there. With that, I'm going to sign off and play with my dog. Have a wonderful Tuesday night and keep shining like the North Star.